The tree was planted 25 years ago by a landscape architect that I met at a mom and baby group. It was a Japanese weeping cherry, and she assured us it was a small tree, not destined to become very large. But over time, excuse me, over time the tree grew and grew, and it kept growing far beyond our expectations. The thick base of its trunk intruding into the neighbor's yard, its soaring branches threatening to take down the hydro wires. But no matter. It was all worth it for the gracefully flowing arc of willowy hanging foliage from which hundreds of pink blossoms emerged every year. Along with other cherry trees on our downtown Toronto street, our tree became something of a tourist attraction. From time to time, we'd catch passers-by stopping to take selfies beside the beautiful tree. A few years ago, I noticed an interesting crack growing along the side, but I didn't think much of it. The weeping cherry just kept cherrying along, growing taller and thicker, and reliably blooming into blossom in the spring. New branches sprang from the crack in the side as the tree grew more mature. As well, new blossoms appeared one year, this time white blossoms instead of pink. How interesting, we thought, and we didn't think anything of it. That spring season came and went. The blossoms fell down on the sidewalk after a windstorm, and in our busy comings and goings, we didn't take time to look carefully at the branches and leaves remaining. If we had, we might have noticed that there were new leaves growing among the weeping ones, leaves that weren't weeping at all, leaves that had a completely different shape. What's more, the new leaves were springing from branches that had a completely different kind of bark, a smoother variety than the original. These new branches, now growing thick and strong like the first ones, were growing out of the crack in the side of the tree. And then last spring, it finally dawned on us. A completely new tree was growing out of our old tree. A completely different species of tree, in fact, an ornamental apple tree growing out of the weeping cherry. A tree within a tree. An intertwined relationship of two entities that were both like and unlike one another. A yes and of interdependence in the natural world right outside our doorstep. If the first tree could talk, I wonder what it would have said when it realized it had to accommodate this completely different tree. It might have said, "Hey you, your blossoms are all wrong." Or, "Look at me and the lovely way my branches are weeping. Give it a try, I'll show you how." Or, noticing just how close the tree was growing, it might have said, excuse me, please back off. You're not giving me enough space. You see, I need all of Lynn and Dave's lawn to become the fullest expression of weeping cherry that I can possibly be." But then, realizing that the apple tree was not going anywhere, and that in fact it was taking up more space, ever more by day, the weeping cherry might have said, "I didn't sign up for this. I reject this apple tree. And what's more, it is cracking a huge hole in my side." The cherry tree might have declared, "I will not tolerate this." And it might have grieved the life that it thought it was destined to live. A life that was now forever changed, whether it liked it or not. But then, gradually coming to realize the fact of the other's existence, intertwined as it was with its own, the cherry tree might have said yes and lived a new life in deep relationship with another. Indeed, that is exactly what has happened. In every life, we find ourselves confronted with experiences, people, even aspects of ourselves that at first seem unwelcome. Thanks, Matt. We think we're in control of our lives, but then, lo and behold, something happens to change our plans, alter our trajectory, and sometimes turn our life into something completely different than we had in mind. These include not only tragic losses and traumatic events, but the whole range of ordinary challenges, something the mindfulness teacher Jon Kabat-Zinn called the whole catastrophe. Coming to terms with these unwanted arrivals can be extremely difficult, but there are ways we can experiment to grow into a more expansive and welcoming way of being. The British actor Keith Johnstone, known as a pioneer in the art of improvisation, died in Calgary in March of this year at age 90. In his classic book Impro from 1981, Keith Johnstone speaks about the connection between saying yes in an improv scene and a healthy spontaneity in life. When an actor offers a suggestion and the other one blocks or rejects it, the scene fizzles out because there's no opportunity for the story to develop. On the other hand, when what he called an offer, no matter how unexpected, is accepted wholeheartedly in the moment, something new and surprising can arise, something often met with laughter and even with joy. Along with other improv pioneers, such as Viola Spolin, Keith Johnstone understood the effects of resistance and rejection, as well as the transformative potential of radical acceptance. He wrote, "Blocking is a form of aggression. If I set up a scene in which two students are to say, 'I love you' to each other, they almost always accept each other's ideas. Many students do their first interesting, unforced improvisations during 'I love you' scenes." He recognized, of course, that theater is a far cry from real life, and that blocking, or saying no to many actions and events, are simply necessary ways of surviving in the world. He wrote, "The motto of scared improvisers is, 'When in doubt, say no.' We use this in life as a way of blocking action. Then we go to the theater, and at all points where we would say no in life, we want to see the actors yield and say yes. Then the action we would suppress if it happened in life, if we were able to suppress it, that is, begins to develop on the stage. If you think of something you wouldn't want to happen to you or to your loved ones, you'll have thought of something worth staging or filming. Perhaps that is why we are so captivated by story in all its forms. It is instructive to us, and indeed inspiring, to see how human beings can respond to circumstances they had no choice but to live through. When we look around, we can see that life is full of opportunities to refuse and to accept. And indeed, we do both of these all the time. The hymn we just sang, "Just as long as I have breath," says, "Tell them I said yes to life." But it might have equally said, "Tell them I also said no from time to time." It certainly didn't say, "I have to say yes to everything." Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life, except when I must say no. Because of course we do. We all block from time to time, as well we should. And at the same time, and with practice, we can learn to create space in our lives for otherness to enter. Then there's the line, "Just as long as vision or wisdom lasts, I must answer yes to truth." Except that sometimes I don't know exactly what truth is. And maybe, just maybe, there's more than one truth at any given time. Indeed, the idea that life is only about yes or no, right or wrong, good or bad, truth or untruth, denies the inherently contradictory aspects of life, which we need to learn to hold if we are to live with any degree of serenity or peace of mind. In his book called The Promise of Paradox, Quaker author and teacher Parker J. Palmer writes, "Contradiction, paradox, the tension of opposites, these have always been at the heart of my experience and I think I am not alone. I am tugged one way and then the other. My beliefs and my actions often seem at odds. My strengths are sometimes canceled by my weaknesses. Myself and the world around me seem more a study in dissonance than a harmony of the integrated whole. He goes on, more than once I have despaired at the corrosive effect of these contradictions on my spiritual life. I had thought that living spiritually required a resolution of all contraries and tensions. I thought I was living in the spirit by railing against life's inconsistencies, when in fact I was becoming more frustrated, more anxious, more withdrawn from those vital places in life where contradiction always lurks. Perhaps, he says, contradictions are not impediments to the spiritual life, but an integral part of it. Over the course of his career, Parker Palmer has continued to explore the concept of wholeness. Wholeness, a word that came up at the end of our meditation reading today. The title of one of his most influential books, in fact, was taken from the quotation, "There is in all visible things a hidden wholeness." It came from the Trappist monk Thomas Merton, who himself struggled with a number of contradictions, not the least of which was that he was a monk who had taken a vow of silence, but ended up writing more than 60 books. He was also someone who died very tragically at a very young age. Are there any contradictions that are living in your life? Any aspects that seem to cancel each other out, or ones that you've struggled with? One for me is that I am primarily an introvert, yet I've been drawn to career paths where I am put in relationship with literally hundreds of people. Now I find myself saying yes to both the introverted and extroverted parts of my life, rather than having to choose between the either or. I've learned also that any close relationship requires us to live with difference, to embrace contradictions, and hopefully, ultimately, but very gradually, to grow. With that, I turn back to that wonderful song, Just as Long as I Have Breath, and I lift up the last line, which I'm not at all tempted to rewrite. The line is, "Tell them I said yes to love." It doesn't say, "Tell them I liked everything," or "Tell them I approved of everything," or "Tell them I wouldn't want many things to be different." It doesn't mean I will not work for change, nor speak out against injustice. Nor does it suggest that I must say yes to everything and everyone who ever asks anything of me. When I hear, "Tell them I said yes to love today," I hear a call toward wholeness, a meeting life on its own terms, a welcoming of the other in other people, in situations, and in my own shadow. And above all, a curiosity about what surprising new meaning might unexpectedly arise from the great improvisation called life, in which we are all participants. Rereading Keith Johnstone's book last week, for the first time since I was a beginning improviser in my early 20s, and not a very good one, I might add, I was surprised and delighted to find in a very lengthy footnote an excerpt from a 1963 text called Interacting with Patients. It was written for nurses, but it is almost identical to techniques still taught for providing spiritual care today, techniques that are used by our spiritual care team at First. Imagine that, a how-to guide for spiritual care hiding in plain sight in a book about improv comedy. One of the most important techniques it identifies is simply accepting with ah, or go on, or simply silence, and offering open-ended, accepting questions such as, "What's on your mind?" or "What was that like for you?" Then, when the answer is received, no matter how unexpected or difficult it may be to hear, to continue to stay open without any form of rejection or blocking. That is, to meet people where they are, to provide unconditional welcome. When we do this in spiritual care, as in all of life, we open up a space where something new can enter, something we might call the healing creative spirit. There are so many other names. Growing in our capacity to meet the other, whomever they are and however encountered, may be one of the most challenging tasks we face as human beings. It takes a lifetime of practice, and of course we will never get it completely right, but that too is a contradiction we can learn to hold. The fact that we will do our best, and yet we will also cause harm. We may set out to write our lives in a completely different way, end up in a completely different scene. There may be a large gap between how we want our lives to be and how they actually are, a gap filled with tension and contradictions, a crack in the side of our well-ordered life that may hold unexpected gifts for us. In A Hidden Wholeness, Parker Palmer writes, "As I stand in the tragic gap between reality and possibility, this small, tight fist of a thing called my heart can break open into greater capacity to hold more of my own and the world's suffering and joy, despair and hope." May we say yes to that as we grow into our capacity to truly love one another and to love the world, even as it breaks us open each and every day.